The first one. Yep. Because we're so
I have the mic muted there, so you don't have
Oh,
to do anything.
okay.
Did you? Is it on there?
It
Yeah, it's on now. Should
it's
be good.
on.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good now.
All right. All right. So yeah, that's for because the first thing we're doing is telling people about and thanking you, PW. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good. Good. Good.
Do we want to close the door?
He's gonna.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to let my esteemed colleague Cosmina say the title of our event because she has a much better accent and pronunciation
Hi,
of our
hi,
title.
hi, everyone. My name is Cosmina Morariu. I'm a partner lawyer at Fragment in Canada. And today we'll talk about Révolution. So please don't say revolution. It's not revolution, it's a revolution. And technology and the changing landscape of crossing borders. And I'm not going to be the star today. It's going to be my colleague, Kim. She's going to be front and center presenting today. So let's get to it.
Well, if we want to start out by thanking BWH Hotels for sponsoring the app. We're going to be doing some polling today to get some feedback from you all about how travel technology is being used in your travel program. So please make sure you download the app. You can use the QR code and use that for your polling today. This is where you'll do the polling. It's part of the conference app, so you can get that and make sure you select the session that we're in. And then all of the, I think,
For some reason.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So we've got some session objectives here, and we want to make sure that everybody is prepared for what is coming. And the best way to do that is by embracing technology. I every day see clients who come to us and they're trying to manage their travel program still with spreadsheets, through email. And really, there are so many advances in technology that happen every day that will help you and your travelers have such a much better experience. So, we're going to look at the new travel technologies that are out there today and how you can embrace them. We're going to identify what are the opportunities for you in your travel program and your travelers. And then look at how you can stay versatile, how you can review those policies, and how you can review the emerging technology to make sure that you're staying current. We're going to do this from a little bit of an immigration standpoint because we see that there is so much opportunity in helping you to manage that very vulnerable population. So we talk about risk a lot in the travel industry, and the biggest risk your travelers are going to face is when they cross the border. Yes, there's risk once they get there, but unless they can compliantly transit that border, they don't have to worry about the risk that they're going to encounter possibly when they're in the country. So you really need to look at your program from when you're booking that reservation and even pre-booking that reservation to make sure you've got the right tools at your disposal. And we also want to make sure that you're aware of ETIAS, right? So my partner jokes a lot that could they have come up with a more complicated and scary name for this program? If they called it La Visa, everybody would be like, great, we're going to go get La Visa and we're going to go to Europe next summer. But it's ETIAS. So that makes everybody realize that they need Fragment and Nomadic to help them.
I think they wanted to align with the rest of the world, ESTA and ETA for Canada.
Yes. So there's that.
But I'm curious, raise of hands, who is still using the physical boarding pass?
both. Yeah.
At one point, we're actually gonna need only this.
Yeah.
So my recent travel to New York, I checked in online. The only thing, they still have to verify the passport, so we are not there yet to be fully digital. But to my surprise, before arriving at the hotel, I could check in online, get my digital key without going to the hotel, check in physically. So, there are a lot of things that will go digital.
Exactly.
So at one point, all we need is this. No more big bag, no more laptop, just the phone.
And this shows you.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I think there's the fact that everything is becoming paperless now.
Yeah.
And you did, I mean, you mentioned like how many people are using this.
Yeah.
And Stephen is doing both. I understand maybe because he likes that or it's easy for him as well as others. But paperless, I mean, I know in the hotel industry, like, at our booth that we're having downstairs today, we're going paperless. Like, just, if you want information, I'll email it to you
Yep.
or whatnot. But
But
Exactly.
it's a very good point. We, as a firm, went paperless during COVID, like fully paperless. You don't see files in our offices as in a normal legal establishment. Everything is online. And to your point, the boarding pass is printed out if you present your passport. I checked online, but then I changed my seat. They printed the boarding pass. So we are still not there.
Too, so I have it as a backup if I were to be robbed or lose my phone or anything, that I have a print version so I can at least go home.
So there is one thing, you mentioned security, that bothers me, is when you go through security, I don't know how many of you feel, but I feel that it's such an intrusive process that I wish that we had some sort of technology where you can just go in with your bag, they scan you fully, and you just pass. You don't have to take off your shoes, you don't have to take off your jacket. I digress, but can somebody come up with a solution or a
Somebody.
technology to remove that process?
But we
Anyway.
do have a lot of emerging technologies, and your travelers are using them. We are seeing a huge trend on people using their cell phones more. As Kazmina said, soon we won't be carrying that big laptop. You can do a lot from mobile apps on your phone, and your travelers are already embracing that technology. So it's important that your travel programs keep up with that. So you can see here, there's still some things that people are doing on their computer. They're doing a lot of planning and research, maybe booking that travel. But you can see the travel check-in is moving to the cell phone. Looking for their accommodation check-in, boarding their flight. 71% of people are using the mobile app, and picking up the rental car. That was something I picked up a rental car a couple weeks ago and never saw one person. Even at the checkout, they just had me scan my driver's license at the checkout. So I did not even have I drove away with a car without ever interacting with a person. And booking your activities, that's something that people are doing. We're going to get into also how bleisure is kind of impacting this use of technology as well. So,
AI.
yes.
I was posting on LinkedIn yesterday, and to my surprise, I got a note saying, "Do you want to rewrite with AI?" I'm like, "I want to, yes." So talk to us about technologies.
So there's a lot of great technologies that can be used in the booking process. When we look at immigration, and we'll get into some very specific case studies for you, but RPA technology to make sure that things are being transcribed accurately. A lot of heavy documentation goes into travel. When you're pulling from profiles to make bookings and things like that, utilizing robotic automation really helps the traveler experience and also make sure that there's accuracy. AI can help us rewrite things, can help us make sure that we've got presentations ready to give you guys. We're still a little, we'll see about how that helps with booking tools and things like that, but the RPA is a really huge focus in the immigration landscape to help make sure that documents are done accurately. biometrics and facial recognition. We're seeing that a lot at airports now with boarding. Again, helping with the security and safety of your flight, because you check in, you present yourself and then they're sure that it's the same person that's boarding the flight. That's a really, and it helps with boarding for the airline personnel as well. So, and all of this adds to the sustainability. We're really talking a lot about sustainability. How many boarding passes did they print out? 200 for each flight with that little card stock. How much of that are we saving? And it's all those little things that incrementally add up by embracing technology that we add to.
I love this session, challenges and opportunities. Whoever comes to me and says, oh, I have a challenge, my response is, you have an opportunity, not a challenge. So let's get into,
So
get into these.
we've got, people are utilizing technology to enhance their experience. We've got, 82% of travel managers saying that AI is a good solution for them to help manage their program. One thing I know, when we go somewhere, everybody's always kind of looking about, like, how can I enhance my business travel? We all know we've been in this business for a long time. You want to see something maybe fun or a little bit interesting about your place that you're going to see, and people are using technology to give them kind of real life experiences about what they're about to encounter there. 80% of business travelers are starting to use automation to help them go through their travel process. All right, so we've got some session polling to do here. So we want to ask some questions so we can evaluate where you are with your technology. So if you can log into your event app and tap on the schedule, locate our session. There's 2 different questions there for you about your use of technology in your travel program or your personal travel.
And you only have 1 minute to do it. I'm just kidding.
And the results will show in the app for you, so it'll be a good. If anybody's brave enough to share their responses too, we'd be happy to kind of get a read on the room. And all right, so as we're finishing up those polling, we want to start going through some challenges and some specific opportunities for use of technology in your travel program. We want to make this conversational, so if there's any challenges that you all come up with that underlie in these, we want to kind of help talk about solutions that may be specifically relevant to you. So please feel free to raise your hand, jump in, make a comment. But one thing that we see in our industry is business visas require stringent requirements. And, there's extensive documentation. It changes frequently, which is, brings on a whole other set of challenges.
A pinpoint.
Yeah. Just this week, as an example, previously, Saudi Arabia was a very difficult country to get a business visa to. It took an invitation from a entity in Saudi Arabia that was endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce that then was assigned to a specific consulate in your country, and you went there and had to
Legalize
file.
it and all that.
Then
requirements.
they opened up to the point where e-visas were allowable for business opportunities. And it was wonderful. And people are exploring the opportunities in Saudi Arabia.
But something happened yesterday.
Yesterday, they shut that down and shut down that access to the public. It's now only accessible for certain registered companies to support with. And so the traveling public had to adapt to a very sudden change, right? So it had been opened up and then it was shut down. And what do we do now? Where do we go for this? And this is why using technology, partnering with a vendor that will help you manage these constant changes is really important. Making sure that you have all the details that's needed for the paperwork, because when you file an application, anything that's incomplete, anything that is omitted or isn't up to the standard requirements that, again, can change on a daily basis, can prolong those processing times. So it's really important that you utilize technology that's going to feed knowledge in. If you have templates of requirements or spreadsheets, or try to set up your own kind of matrix, it makes it very difficult to manage and keep those up to date. So really looking for tools that will be dynamically updated with the most recent requirements is
And
really important.
imagine if you have 100 people coming to X jurisdiction for an event, then how do you track all those people? You want to make sure you have everything in one report, who's denied, who's approved. And you have a denial, it's fine, you can overcome it, you can resubmit, but you lose the processing fee, you lose the time. But what's the most difficult jurisdiction in terms of documentation? Because I know in the US, you just go with a Canadian passport, very easy, easy breezy. But if you go to China, then, you have a lot of documents that you have to submit.
Yeah. And it changes, right? So it can be, Saudi Arabia was probably my most challenging destination 2 weeks ago. Then they changed to an e-visa. Now they've changed, kind of cut that off for some of the public. China is very document heavy, again, requiring invitations from entities in China. But those things change. And what we saw a lot during the pandemic as well is not only are visa requirements changing, but entry requirements change. So whether you need 6 months validity on your passport to enter a country or 3 months validity on your passport to enter a country, do you need a specific health declaration, or is there an e-ticket requirement? Is your customs form required online? Unfortunately, as I'm traveling and I'm checking in or waiting in line, I hear people talking about can you believe it? I got to the ticket counter and I don't have my migration form for Colombia, and now I have to do this before they'll check me in. It's very stressful for your travelers. So having that information in one place that they can check pre-trip to make sure before they go to the airport they're fully prepared for what they need to encounter. So it's can really help them. Does anybody have any examples where their travelers maybe had challenges with visa applications or pre-entry requirements that they'd like to share? Yes.
Email overload.
Yes.
And not understand why they're getting your email.
Yeah. So what do you? I know we all relate to email overload for sure.
So implementing a new account, not understanding the document flow, getting to the travel manager to explain what they're going to hear and why. And why do I get it again? If I was in Saudi this week, if I'm in Brazil next week, why am I getting emails from the TMC about international restrictions? Surely they've got this right, but it's not that, right? So that's getting ahead of that discussion, that if you get an email, it's important. Yeah, and so many of our customers work through arrangers or EAs, and they're busy, so we're having to coach them. And that's a disaster you've just described there. You could do it last week with Saudi. Now you can't, but that's on us. right? We have to explain that, not the Saudis.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you let me book my
Sure,
ticket?
sure. And the other thing too is, I think having travelers take personal ownership of the problem, right? So we all glibly say, did you check your passport? Did you check your health card? Did you check your driver's license? For me, did I check my PR card? No, I didn't. So, you know.
Yeah, and it's a lot. It's a lot to remember as you're booking that international trip. There's a lot to remember. So having a clear policy in place where you're looking at that, and I know, myself, I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone else in the room, the email overload, right? So if that important information is in an email that maybe you missed, maybe that's the one that you didn't get to today, but it's really important. So having a system that maybe is there something a little bit better than email? Email was good when we were watching You've Got Mail, and Meg Ryan warned us it was going to be our demise, and here we are. So is there something better? Is there something a little bit more technologically advanced that your travelers can have access to so that they're not losing that communication in the email overload? Really good point to bring up.
Processing times.
We've got long processing times at consulates. I'm going to bring up the example of your travelers who need Schengen visas, right? We're all going to be celebrating the Olympics tonight at the big night out. And appointments for the Schengen region are already booked through the summer. So it is, if somebody needs a visa, it is going to be very challenging to get them an appointment at this point, and have their documents seen. There's nothing worse than waiting 6 weeks for an appointment to show up that day and not have your documents right? So somebody's been waiting patiently for this appointment that's going to then take them another 14 days to get their visa, and they're missing one key document because they were following instructions from maybe a template from 6 weeks ago. So again, the use of technology is really critical to make sure that people are not getting stuck and wasting time, because they, it could mean that they miss their trip. Sometimes they're able to bring things later if a consulate is amenable to that. But there are often times where if you show up for an appointment that you've waited weeks for and you're missing one key document, something is typed incorrectly, if they got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, they might just be like, no, schedule a new appointment and come back. So again, managing things in a kind of a profile system or something that can be checked via technology, using robotic process automation to pull directly from the source. So if you scan your passport into a system, it has the actual data. Then when it uploads that into your application form, it's transferring it from the source. It's not dependent on you possibly typing your passport number wrong. I was at the airport the other day, and I was behind somebody in line, and they got up to the TSA, and their birth date was wrong, so they couldn't go through because it was. And they're like, I don't understand how my birthday is wrong. Who? And the TSA agent was like, well, who booked your ticket? I booked my ticket. Well, then you made a typo when you made your birthday. So they had to go. They had waited in line already. They had to go all the way back to whatever ticket counter and get their birth date updated so that they could then wait back in line again. And, little things like that where you're, if you're booking your travel and not using technology and you're even relying on yourself to type your birth date in wrong, sometimes you make a mistake, especially as we're, in a rush or trying to get things done. So utilizing those profiles and online booking tools and things like that can really help to make your processing much easier, not only for government applications, but when you're at the airport.
I'm gonna pause right there for a second because I want to share with the rest one experience that we recently had. Somebody applying for a visa to France who's not a Canadian citizen but a free national. You need the temporary resident visa to return to Canada before you apply for the visa for France. So there are a few things that you have to keep in mind. Technology that we have in place is it allows you to store all the information. You may have somebody traveling 10 times per year. We don't request the same information over and over. If you apply for X visa, we can use that for Y visa or for Z visa. And that's the beauty of technology because you can then run reports and you can see who travel, which jurisdiction, what is the cost, and so on. And at the same time, you have the technology. You don't have to go onto the ex-consular website to check the latest requirements because the technology will actually pop up to say, hey, this is the latest on this jurisdiction. So I love to have that. Sorry, I
No.
love technology, but
I know.
that's the gist of it, really.
I could not manage my day if I did not have technology because, you know, we are working with clients who are sending their travelers outbound from the Americas. The team here in Canada works specifically with outbound from Canada, but we have all over. And I feel like 170 countries are trying to conspire against me to ruin my day by 10 a.m. every day. So I have to find a way to corral that information. And we have experts all over the world that are feeding in all these live updates. You cannot manage. I have people all the time who say, oh, can you put that on a spreadsheet for me? And I just want to cry. So don't ever ask anybody if they can put anything on a spreadsheet for you. The answer is probably no, and you're probably making them cry at their desk. But there are tools out there to support your travelers in their journey. So there's, you know, and I want you to embrace them. If you walk out of this session with nothing else, I want you to walk out with hashtag no more spreadsheets and hashtag no more email initiation. We're gonna make it a thing in Toronto this week. But you know, visa denials. This is obviously very challenging when this happens to someone. And it can happen for things that you don't even realize.
It could be even, I'm going to stop you
Yeah.
right there. It's very simple. It could be even a letter, business support letter, that has the incorrect wording.
Yeah.
Especially if you apply for a Chinese visa. Don't have the wording that they want, it gets, it's rejected.
Yeah.
And it's so simple.
Yeah, it's very challenging, and there's things that change all the time. So if you've got, I'll give an example. If you've got travelers that are coming to the U.S. That are not Canadians, they're foreign nationals, and they have had previous Cuban nationality, their status in the U.S. has changed. So even though they may be from a visa-waived country, so say they hold a French passport now, but they're coming to the U.S. and normally would be able to get an ESTA as someone who was a former Cuban national, they are no longer eligible under the ESTA program. And again, that changed overnight for people. And it changed overnight for people who had a valid ESTA. So people were showing up at the airport thinking, I got this 18 months ago, I'm good. And they showed up at the airport and had to apply for a B1 visa to the U.S. So again, managing these things and having technology support with those items. People who have traveled to certain jurisdictions can then get visa denials. So, depending on where you're traveling and what their current political landscape with is each other can cause a visa denial. So sometimes you want to get ahead of those visa denials, right? You have somebody's travel history as part of their profile. So before you even apply for a visa, you say, listen, we're going to go at this in a different way. We're not going to apply for the ESTA and get a denial and then have to apply for a B1. We're just going to go straight into the B1 and explain the case so that we can avoid having a visa denial. This does a lot of things for your travelers because once you have a visa denial, you have to report that on every subsequent application that you file
For every country.
for every country. So you want to make sure that you don't get that ESTA denial that you're pretty sure is going to happen anyways because of where they've traveled or foreign nationality. Just go right to the B1, and then you can avoid having the visa denial.
And it's
on the
interesting, I
record.
got a question this morning from a client who's based in Vietnam. Oh, I had a US refusal. Do I have to declare it on my Canadian application? I said, yes, you have to. Oh, but the US and Canada, do they share information? Yes, they do share information. Yes, surprise, surprise. So declare, declare, declare. You have a positive obligation to declare any type of refusal. That doesn't mean you cannot reapply and obtain an approval, but it means that you have to declare.
Yeah, you have to be, I mean, yes, these entities are sharing information for security purposes, for, lots of different purposes, but it's important that your travelers are completely transparent on their applications to make sure that they avoid any additional denials.
So do we have a technology that is the single source of truth that can be utilized instead of having spreadsheets, government websites,
Yeah.
you know,
So there
things
are
like that?
opportunities to look at immigration policies and requirements in one place. So there's a lot of different companies out there that do provide this information. We would be happy to talk to you about our tool off the floor or out of the session, but it is key that you partner with a vendor that is going to give you information updated real time. Because, like we said, things are changing so rapidly that making sure that that is updated and that is not even 24 hours old is really going to be key in keeping your travelers compliant and safe as they transit borders. Yeah, this one's another really key one. When people go to apply for a visa, oftentimes you apply for a long-term visa. India, as an example, offers a 5-year multiple entry business visa. Ever since the pandemic, that is a major anomaly. Like, it is not issued. It is mainly issued as a 6-month or a 1-year multiple entry visa. If you go to apply for a 5-year visa and you just assume that your visa is going to be issued as applied for, sometimes people don't even look at their visas, or they just get it back. They see that there's a stamp and they don't look at the dates. You could run the risk of just assuming you have that 5-year, showing up at the airport and not being travel ready. So again, utilization of a profile or a tracking system that once you get that visa, you're entering that information into a system that's going to send you alerts. This is getting ready to expire. Or you can see it as a virtual travel document, so you know your passport has these visas. When are they expiring? And you can see that all in one place to help you manage your travel. Because again, there's nothing worse than I see it a lot of times with passports. Because your children's passports are often issued for a shorter validity than yours, 5 years versus 10 years. So people go on their trip and bring their kids with them, and then they're like, their passports expired 2 years ago. Why is mine still valid? So utilizing the technology to help you manage those expiration dates, personal level for your family, but also on a professional level. If you're managing a large group of individuals, or you've got your population, you can see in one place what the visa validities are, so you know when you need to get those renewed.
But there is one more thing to add for Schengen. If you're traveling different jurisdictions, there is the possibility of tracking in what location you are, and if you're exceeding the number of days, they're into. Do you want to talk about that one? Because
Sure.
that is actually very important.
Yeah, there are optional geolocation services out there that you should look at because we have, you know, increased scrutiny as you're crossing borders. And as the Schengen area expands, their requirement is 90 days per 180 days is what you're allowable as a business visitor without needing either a long-term work permit. And that is every day that you're in the country. So not just I spent 5 days there in business, but I went 5 days there in business, and then I extended for my 2-week holiday, and then I maybe went back for another week. All of that is included in your days allowable in the region. So making sure that you have automated tools to track those days in country is really key because that's not going to show up on expense reporting if people are tacking on additional days for their travel, for leisure. And you really need to have visibility in that because if you think someone is travel ready to a region, but they have already extended those days, it's
So in other
It can be
words,
a
you
pain
can't have
point.
an employee coming to you saying, "I spent 5 days in Italy." No, you didn't. You spent 7 days because I can see that you were 7 days,
Yeah,
right? So you can have that
exactly.
technology.
You have the
That's
visibility.
interesting.
So we've got some travel trends here up on the screen for you, and this kind of shows you why people are traveling, why people are crossing borders as kind of a breakdown. And a lot of these are allowable as business visitors, so that's great. Where we see the most risk in our business travelers is that little other, right? That category of other, where people lump in a whole bunch of different activities. And this is where, you know, traditionally in the market, what we would see is I would say, I'm going to China for business, help me get a business visa. The problem is there's a 2% of those people that their activities don't fall under internal meetings, external meetings, meeting with a client. They're actually going to go to a facility and they're going to look at what's going on in the
Business
factory,
meetings at the facility.
or they're going to, plan a project or implement a new plan in that country. And those are the activities that are really red flags. They can trigger a need for a work authorization. So integrating a tool that looks at what somebody is actually going to be doing on that business trip to make sure that those 2% that are high risk for your travel program and for themselves are traveling compliantly. So you're looking at, what are you doing when you're there? What exactly is the intent of that business trip? We also want to look at frequency because once you start to know the border officials, because you're going back and forth, this is a big issue in Canada, especially for those
Close to
people
the
that
border.
live on the border, Michigan residents and the like. If you're coming across and you start to get friendly, that is going to be a big red flag for them. So you want to make sure, and the same is for Canadians going on to the other side of the border. So you want to make sure, again, that you're capturing how frequently is somebody going, because those border officials are going to start to question, is your company really sending you for business activities?
5 times per week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So very, very needed to capture that using technology. So the frequency, the time spent, all of those things can really be captured and are opportunities for your travel program to embrace technology. So how do you do it, right? How do you remain flexible? How do you ensure that you are, implementing these things that are reasonable and looking for what is the best solution? So,
Okay.
I would suggest that you have regular assessments of your travel program. You remain flexible. You rely a lot on your vendors, right? Ask them what is the best in class. Ask them what they're seeing in the industry. What are other people doing and what are the recommendations? It's also great to implement your colleagues in GBTA. We all have access to the hub, and there's different information that you've got there from your colleagues that are doing different things, and you can really use that. You're making a big step today by attending our education session, and we're very thankful for that. We look forward to continuing the conversation.
And if you need a report that captures everything, travel, name of employees, travel spend, cost, red flags in the different jurisdictions, risk management, and so on, come and talk to us. We have some things there that we can show you.
So we do want to leave some time for any questions that everybody may have about the session, any particular items that you would like to bring up or maybe have the group address. If you're not too shy, I'll come around with a microphone. Does anybody? So I can bring up some horror story examples to share with you all if you'd like. I know everybody loves the red meat, but here, we've got a question.
I know it's like a fine line between we're attending business meetings and we're actually doing work. So where is the best place to kind of set that as far as the company is concerned when sending employees to go across the border for, even just from US, like Canada to the US?
I have one comment to make there. It's not always about duties. It's about duties, frequency, nationality, location. So there are different factors you have to look at.
Yeah. So I think in that case, it is a fine line, and each jurisdiction looks at it a little bit differently about what is allowable as a business activity. So really utilizing a tool like an assessment tool that will kind of show you, again, it's not something that can be like mapped out in a tick box checked, but looking at integrating a tool with your business travel that will say, what are you doing in this country? And then it reviews the activities and gives you a clear assessment.
And who pays you? Do you get any
Yeah.
payment in that country?
Yeah.
That's the flag that tells you the person is working.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's even, there's red flags. I'll share one personal story. Thankfully, this didn't happen to me on Sunday, but last year coming here, I, had my booth with me. I had all my goodies with me, and I filled out my customs declaration form that I have commercial activity, I have commercial things. They had me construct my booth in secondary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm serious as a heart attack. And then they asked me for my invitation, which I did have, but I did leave it on my desk. So I said, I have one. The physical copy's on my desk. I have my electronic copy. And then they asked me what I did. And I said, well, I help people compliantly cross borders. And he had me pack up my booth and sent me on my way. He figured he'd shamed me enough for the day. So again, it's something that your travelers can experience. For me, I know what's going to happen. It's a funny story for me. For your travelers, it might not be a funny story. So giving them the tools ahead of time, giving them that prep work so that they know what to expect goes a long way in making sure that they have a good travel experience.
It was just one example, one person, one example. But if you have 100 employees traveling for one project, oops.
Yeah.
You may be in trouble.
Well, we thank you all for your time and participation in today's event. Thank you so much for attending.
Yes,
and
thank you very
look
much.
forward to connecting with all of you tonight at the Big Night Out or at our booth later this afternoon. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.